Is this working? It's really frustrating. I don't have a workflow down for these live streams. Okay, I'm just going to do a sound check, so if anybody's there, can you hear me okay? I don't see. I'm so sorry. This is so hard for me. I don't know why. If you guys are typing anything, I'm not seeing it. Okay, how's the, thank you so much. How's the sound quality? Is it okay? I mean, I know yesterday or day before I was having a hard time with it. What is that doing? Okay, good. Because I got this mic that is supposed to be awesome, and it's really good when I'm just recording audio straight off it. But then when I was trying to live stream yesterday, it was really bad. And I think it was the software, so I'm trying a different software today. This free one, it's OBS. A little tricky to get it set up, but I think it's working. Oh, hi George, how are you? Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you can hear me and the sound quality is okay, right? It's not staticky or echoey, right? Oh, thanks, Ron. You already answered. All right. I'll wait about another minute. But I mean, if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and start asking. I'm going to be really talking about the E-M10 Mark II, and I was able to get the screen on the E-M10 Mark II to show up on the live. You guys can see the screen, right, of the back of the E-M10 Mark II? Because I wanted to be able, if you had a question about any of the settings on that camera, I can go into the menu and show you how to do it. And then if need be, I could even show you one of the dials and stuff. So hopefully this works out better than yesterday. It was the first 15 minutes of yesterday's video was just a disaster. I just had to be careful because I'm in the habit of closing windows. Like when I'm in my computer, I might accidentally close the live stream. But hopefully that won't happen. The trick is to get these windows all sized just the right way. Like so, like so. Oh, no, I want it the other way. I'm almost there. Only thing is, now the text is being cut off. Maybe it's because I zoomed in too much. Yeah, let's try that. There we go. Now it's too small. Crap. Let's see. That doesn't help. Well, okay. Now, basically, today's live stream was really just partially for me to get this workflow down of setting up a live stream so that I can do this a lot smoother each time. And also, you know, I did a lot of those Olympus for Beginners series, and there was a lot of interest. You know, those are my most popular videos. You know, how to set up the camera for beginners, and I just wanted to maybe just be here live for people that maybe watch that video but still have questions. And I'll do my best to show you on the camera and you know, with the dials and things, how to do different settings to do different things for different types of photography. You know, my specialty is really architectural, you know, doing real estate stuff, but I have a pretty good idea of how to set the camera for just about any kind of scenario. But you know, somebody might stump me tonight, who knows, we'll see. But oh, I'm sorry, George. You asked me a question there. If there's any rumors they're going to update the M10 Mark III. I haven't heard anything, but who knows? It should be easy enough to update things in firmware to add things that are in the M1 Mark II, but I really haven't heard anything. So Ron has a question. How do you switch off the beep and the pilot light? You mean for like the autofocusing? Okay, let's go into the menu. Gosh, I have to look over here. Let me get my face out of the way. Let's see. Oh, okay. WG chose, yeah, the yeah, that little lens. That's a great lens. I always have that out. I haven't taken it out lately, but that, yeah, that's a great lens. I love that swirly bokeh effect that you get with it, and it's very fast, so you can shoot in low light. Oh, wow, no video, huh? Let's see. Is the audio back now? Maybe I need to go into settings. Okay, do I have sound back now? Okay, good. Yeah, I'm still learning to figure out the kind of the quirks of this software because yeah, if I turn the webcam off and turn it back on, obviously I have to reset it somehow. So what I'll do is I'll just move it down a window. Plus I wonder what if there's any delay, because when I'm looking at the screen, I'm looking at two screens. Like I'm looking at one of the software, and then I'm looking at it on YouTube. And on YouTube, there's like a 10-second delay. But I don't know how to test that. I mean, I don't move very fast, but does it look like I'm moving in slow motion? Okay, let's see. Ron. Okay, so I did answer your question. Okay, good. Any other questions? I know there's not a lot of people online, so I don't know. I guess I have to jibber jabber a little bit until someone has a question. Okay, thanks, WG or WTG. Okay. You know, I guess I can talk about what, I don't know if you've seen the video. I did a video on why I bought the EM10 Mark II. And, it was when I was really, I was shooting my Nikon D750, which has pretty much been in a bag down there for 2 or 3 years now. I haven't pulled it out since buying, going into Olympus. But I just wanted something smaller and lighter that I could take with me when I go out hiking and biking and all of that stuff. Mainly I just wanted a small camera with good quality, and I didn't do any review, look at any reviews online or watch the YouTube videos talking about this camera. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing. I just went into the camera store because I go there all the time, and I said, I want a small camera that has decent quality, and she pulled out the Sony. I think at the time was the NEX or Alpha 6000, and they had the Fuji X-T10, and they had the Olympus camera, and she may have pulled out one other one, but those are the three I remember. And I said, I'm not buying Sony again because I have a Sony NEX, which was the predecessor, I think, to the A6000, and I just didn't like that camera. I mean, I really, excuse me, I really liked it at first, and I got used to all the settings and how to use the camera. But it just felt like a piece of tech. It didn't really feel like a camera to me. And prior to the Sony NEX, because I did research a lot when I was buying the Sony. I didn't have a camera at all. I had little pocket point and shoots. That's all I shot with, if at all. I hardly was into photography at all, and I think that was in 2012 or 2013. And before I talk too long, if anybody has a question, just jump in and I'll stop talking and answer your question. But the Sony NEX, yeah, so I bought, I researched a lot, and YouTube wasn't a big deal back in 2012 as it is now. So I didn't even watch YouTube videos when I was looking for cameras. I just researched online, all the feedback from the forums and things, and everybody said it was great, so I bought it. And I'd say within a year of having that camera, I bought a very cheap Nikon I think it was a D80, or no, it was a Nikon D40, I think. I bought it for like $100 on eBay, and with the kit lens, and I went out shooting with that for a day. Because my friend, he shoots Nikon, and he said, you ought to try Nikon. So I said, okay. And rather than renting one, which would cost about the same, I said, I'll just buy a Nikon D40, because at the time, the image quality wasn't quite as critical to me as just the ergonomics. So I bought a Nikon D40 with a kit lens for like $100, and I loved it. The optical viewfinder and the handling, because it actually had a really nice form-fitting grip. And shortly thereafter, I bought a Nikon D7100, which is an APS-C 24 megapixel camera, and that camera was awesome. I shot to death with that thing, and The only person I really watched on YouTube at the time was it was Matt Granger, because he was called that Nikon guy, and then I watched the Fro back when he was still doing a lot of like how-to photography, and a little bit of Tony Northrup, and then of course at the time he was known as the Angry Photographer, more commonly known as that. I don't know if he really still goes by that or not, because he did these reviews on all these vintage Nikon glass that I wanted to use on the camera. Okay, how do you set up the function buttons? All right, well, okay, the camera by default sets the function buttons up to certain things. So let's just go into the menu. Let me hide my face again real quick. I'll just move this up. All right. Hopefully we still have audio. So if we have audio, just somebody chime in. All right. Oh, I had a real estate job today, so that's the memory card that's in here. Okay, so function buttons. If we go into the menu and we go into button dial, button function, the camera will tell you the default settings for thank you WTG, what the default settings are. So we have AL, AFL, so that's auto exposure lock, autofocus lock. Function 2 is a multi-function, and that'll do like 4 or 5 different things, and I'll show you what that is. And then function 3, set the live guide. So you can change 3 function buttons to anything you want. And if you look at the arrow to the right, is a little right arrow, means you can click right on the D-pad. And then this is where you scroll up and down using the D-pad to change the function button. So if I want function button 1 to be, let's see, like digital teleconverter instead of being an autofocus lock, because I don't really use back button focus much, so I usually set the function 1 button to something else. So you have it here, and then you just click the OK button, and now function 1 button is set to the digital teleconverter. And then function 2 is the multi-function button, and that performs various functions. So the way you operate that is you have to hold the function 2 button down and then rotate the rear dial like so, and then you can choose what function 2 is doing. So let me see if I can show you that with the other camera. So what I'm doing is you hold the function button down, function 2 button, and then you just rotate the rear dial. See if I hold it down and rotate it. So right now the function 2 button is set for highlight and shadow. This is color creator, or you can set it to activate the ISO white balance for the front and rear dial, and then magnify, and then aspect ratio. But that's basically how you set up the function buttons. So hopefully, EJ, that answered your question. If not, let me know. I'll try and just elaborate a little more what you were looking for if that didn't answer your question. Okay, so I'll just jibber jabber a bit more until someone else has a question, tell a story or something. But yeah, so I was watching Angry Photographer and Tony Northrup and Matt Granger, the Nikon guy, and then of course Digital Rev, and I really enjoyed all of those channels, and still do for the most part. I don't really watch Angry Photographer as much lately. I don't know, he's not talking about Nikon lenses, so, and I'm not into Nikon anymore. Oh, okay, EJ, what do I usually do? Okay. Um, let's see. I just got my EM10 fixed because I had the battery door broken on it, and it's been a couple of months since I've used it. But I set up the camera a little different every time I go out, depending on what I'm going to be shooting. So obviously for my professional work, when I do real estate, I set the function buttons up. Actually, I don't really do anything in. I set the mode dial. I program the my sets in the mode dial really. But typically, yeah, I like to set the function 1 button up for the magnify. And then the function button 2, I don't change. I like the highlight and shadow detail. And the reason I set the function 1 button up for magnify, not magnify, but no, it is magnify. I was thinking digital telecom. I usually set it up for magnify because sometimes I'm shooting with a manual focus lens, like I'll adapt one of my old Nikon lenses, and magnifying in and focusing is a lot easier. And then function 3, I rarely need to use that, but if I do, I will put it into either an HDR function, or I will set it for custom white balance. Because a lot of times I find myself in different lighting conditions, and I always carry a white piece of paper in my back pocket when I go out on photo walks. So if I want to get the white balance correct, particularly for night photography, you have that really strong tungsten lighting sometimes. But now the lighting in the streets are all mixed up, right? Because they have LED lights, they got gas lights in Alexandria, they got the regular tungsten lights, and so depending on the lighting situation, I can quickly set the custom white balance with the function 3. But primarily the function 1 and function 2. Function 1 I leave on highlight and shadow. Function 1 I set to magnify, so I can help me focus. So that, yeah, I would say that's pretty much it. Now, when I'm using my Pen F or EM1 Mark II, I set the function 1 button a little bit differently because those two cameras have a feature that's not on the EM10, and that's the lens profile feature, where I can program in custom profiles for each lens, like the focal length and the name of the lens, and then that'll get embedded into the EXIF data of the JPEG or RAW file. So on those two cameras, I typically set function 1 to lens profile, and the Pen F doesn't need a magnify button because it has one, a dedicated magnify button. So it's really handy on the Pen F to have the lens profile set up to function 1, and then everything else I leave default. Mainly because the Pen F has so many dials and buttons on it anyway, and a little jog dial, so I don't really need to change the function buttons. It has one button on the front of the camera. Where's my Pen F? That I do set to maybe focus peaking, that toggle that on and off. But usually magnifying in is a little more accurate if I need to manually focus. How do I set the mode dial? Oh, okay. I'll show you that real quick. Let me hide myself. Because I do that, almost every day, because when I go on a real estate job, I program the my set specifically for that workflow when I'm doing real estate. Oh, let's go down. Yeah, there we go. All right, so in the menu, it's in the button, let me see, mode dial function right here. So it's in menu B, as you can see on the left side. You go to mode dial function and you just set it. So if I want my set 1 to be in as iAuto, that's what I would do. But what I normally do, my set 1 when I'm doing real estate, it's usually a 3-shot bracket, plus or minus 1 stops. So I will set that to, excuse me, I will set the mode dial to this. This is the collage mode. I forget what it's called officially, but this is where you can make a collage. But this icon on the mode dial looks like, you know, a bracketed shot, like taking 3 pictures to me. So that's where I program a bracketed shot into this. And I'll do that. And then I'll set up my set 2. Now my set 2, when I'm working in real estate, that's my flash shot when I use the flash. So I will set that to scene mode like this. Because I rarely use the collage or scene mode on the camera ever. And the reason I picked these two is because on the mode dial, they're right next to each other too. So it's real easy just to switch back and forth. When I'm doing my workflow in real estate, I just switch it to scene mode. Oops, oh, it's on the other side. So you'll see I switched it to scene mode here. And if you look in the bottom left corner, you can see it's set to my set 1. It says my 1 right above the P mode. And then I just click it over one click, and then I take my flash shot, and then you can see that right over the P is the my set 2. So that's how I use the mode dial to use the my sets. I don't like to program the function buttons for my sets. It gets a little dicey. And I can't think now what happened, because now I'm in the habit of just using the mode dial. But when you start programming my sets to a function button, and then you got some on a mode dial, the camera gets tripped up somewhere. It works, but then it doesn't. So I had to stop doing that. Not that I ever did that, you know, on purpose, but you know, sometimes when you're messing around, that happens, and I've learned to only program my sets to either a mode dial or a function button, but not both at the same time. So yeah, again, basically the live stream today is mainly for, you know, beginners that really need some help with the settings on the E-M10 Mark II. And again, because the most popular videos on my channel are those Olympus settings for beginners, so I figured, you know, my next live stream could be this. And I have to apologize if you're watching this after the fact, like after the live stream's over, because you're in the UK or in some other time zone. I will try and do some live streams at a more appropriate time for you guys. Even 10 o'clock at night's a little late for most of us here in the States, but this is the fastest I can get out and do something. So no questions. Okay, let's see. I have a video, I think it's called 5 Hidden Settings in the Olympus E-M10. That's a pretty decent video if you want to learn some like things that people miss a lot when they're trying to set up the camera. Some neat things you can do. And I can't remember them now because just my memory's just not that way anymore. But that's a good video on the E-M10 as well. If you've already kind of gone through the Olympus Beginner series, then that's a good video, the Olympus E-M10 Mark II Hidden Settings. Let's see, do you always turn off the IS features on the lens with this feature? Do you always, I'm sorry, Tonka Toy Truck has a question. Do you always turn off the IS features on lens with this feature? I'm not sure what the question is. I don't have any lens. Well, let me just say I don't have any lenses that have IS in them, because there's only a couple, I think, right? The 300 millimeter, the 12-100 Pro, the two off the top of my head, and I think the 40-150 Pro. And I don't own any of those lenses because they're just way too expensive. You know, if I needed them for professional work, I could justify the cost. But I have a 40-150 kit lens that I'm very happy with. So I'm not buying the 40-150 Pro. But so I'm sorry I can't answer that question. Do I turn that off? I imagine that some of the cameras can, I know the M1 Mark II does, is they use the image stabilization in the lens and the camera to work together. Oh, yeah. Yeah, IBIS works with the image stabilized lenses if they're an Olympus lens. I don't think if you put a Panasonic lens that has IS on it, they're going to work together. You'd have to pick one. But again, I just don't own any image stabilized lenses that I can tell you firsthand that's the case. So that's just not something I've experienced with. But I do know that they don't work together if they're different brands, Panasonic and Olympus. And the same thing goes with Panasonic cameras. If you have a Panasonic camera, the image stabilization in an Olympus lens is not going to work on it. It may be able to work separately, but not together. Okay, you're welcome, Tonka Toy Truck. I'm sorry. That's a tongue twister to say that fast. Let's see. I'm trying to think here. Let's see. Hi, Rob. Gusto Mora says, hi, thanks for all your videos. I watched them from Colombia, South America. Wow. How do you save more battery life using the EVF finder or the back screen? I believe the consensus is that the back screen uses less energy, even though it's larger. The rationale being that it's only a 1 megapixel image versus you have a 2.4 megapixel image in the EVF, a much higher resolution. So a lot of the energy from the battery is being drawn by the CPU, the TruePic 7 processor that's in the camera. And if it has to work harder to generate the image in the EVF, because the EVF also has high speed mode, I think 60 frames per second, whatever that, I never use it, but yeah, so if the processor has to work harder, it's going to draw a lot more power than the LEDs that are on the back screen. The EVF on the E-M10 Mark II is also an OLED, so it draws power constantly. It draws a little more power than a regular LCD because LCDs, they're illuminated by LEDs, which use very little power, relatively speaking. But an OLED, from the way I understand it, uses more energy. So you combine that with the processing power needed from the CPU to generate the image onto the EVF, it uses more energy that way to use the EVF viewfinder. So that's my logic to why that would be the case, because it's not always obvious, because the EVF is very small compared to this large back screen. So intuitively you think that the back screen is going to be use more energy, but it does not, in fact. And those are the reasons I believe that the EVF uses more energy. So I hope I answered that question. Oh, Fuji, man, I tell you, that's a camera that I really want. The XH1 tempted me so much because it's like $9.99 right now. It might be $11.99, but whatever. It's like half the price it was a year ago. But I haven't actually legitimately tried a Fuji yet, because I was looking at an XE3 with an 18 to 55 or whatever. It was like on sale for $8.99. And oh, okay, you're welcome, Augusto. The XE3 with that kit lens was really tempting because it was about the same size as the E-M10 Mark II, and then you throw the lens on there. It's a little bit bulkier, but it's pretty much the same thing. And it had the touch screen and EVF and of course all of the Fuji film simulations that I'm just dying to try. So I'm leaning towards that or an XT30. My problem is that I don't really like the design of Fuji too much. The XT30 and the XE3. I much prefer the Olympus bodies, and I get a lot of inspiration from my cameras. I mean, if I don't, I always say this: if you don't like your camera, you're not going to take it out and go take pictures. And when you do, you probably won't take good pictures because you don't like the camera. So that's kind of held me off because 6 or 7 years ago when I was looking at the XT10 versus the EM10, I went with the EM10, even though they were priced pretty competitively. Mainly for the cosmetic looks because I had no idea about image quality of those two cameras. I didn't do any research. So, and knowing what I know now today, I would probably still went with the Olympus EM10 Mark II versus the Fuji X-T10, even knowing what I know today about Fujifilm. Now, the Fujifilm X-T3 is just one of the most beautiful cameras I've ever seen, and it has everything you could ever want, or that I would want with respect to the film simulations. And that's the most tempting thing for me is the film simulations that Fuji has and the colors you get out of that. Sorry, I was reading photos here, but if the XT3 only had the film simulations, not everything else that's driving the price up, I would be happy with that. The XT30 is supposed to do that, but I just don't like how the XT30 looks. And I know I'm being a little bit vain, but that's important to me. So I wish the XT3 was more at a XT30 price point. And if there was a way to do that, I would have bought that camera instantly. But it's not. And that's why I was tempted by the XH1 because it has all the things that I want. Film simulation, also has IBIS, right? But then that camera looks, I just don't like how it looks either. I love the top plate LCD. I love the EVF in it. I did handle one in the camera store. Ergonomically, that camera is probably the most perfect camera on the market, and has everything you could ever want at a price now that is just so attractive. It's hard not to buy it. And the only thing that's holding me back from that is because of the cosmetics. I'm not crazy about how the camera looks cosmetically, but the main thing that's holding me back from any of the Fuji cameras, the XT30, XT3, is really, I know that I'm going to have to start investing in lenses and then building that system. And I'm not good at selling my old systems, right? I still have my Nikon D750 and all the lenses with it. I mean, my God, I got this Zeiss 35mm f2. I mean, this was like $1,000 lens, and I haven't used it at all in the last 3 years since going to Olympus. But I can't let go of it because this was just such a wonderful lens. I'm going to have to put this on the EM1 Mark II and go shoot with it one day. But, and that's why I'm not getting into Fuji's, because I know once I get into it, I'm going to be invested in the lenses so much. And honestly, I can't afford that. I might start to try to sell off my D750 stuff. Like I have a 150 to 600 lens that might be worth a couple $100 now, and etc. But I will never sell my Zeiss lens. This was the best lens purchase I ever had, and this was a recommendation actually from the Angry Photographer, 5 or 6 years ago, and he was right. This lens is amazing. All right, let's see. I have a couple of things here. Photos, you tried the G9, Z6, XT3 EOS, and you lost money in the process. Photos, you actually bought those cameras and then returned them or sold them and then ended up with Olympus, or what are you shooting now? And Lana, let's see, what's the easiest way to stream video using an OM and Elgato? Oh, You know, this streaming thing is new for me, but the way I'm set up, and I can probably even show you but I don't use the Elgato. I almost bought that today. I bought this today. This is a J5. Let me see if you can see this. This is a J5 Create. It was like $89. I got it at Best Buy today. And that's why I wanted to come out and live stream today. One of the reasons anyway. So I wanted to try this device out because I wanted the back of the camera to be on the live screen. But for the camera, I'm just using this really old Logitech Pro 9000 that I think I bought. I think I bought this in the early 2000s. So this webcam I'm using is over 10 years old. It doesn't even do HD video. It does like 720p, I think. But this is working fine. But the key to streaming really is audio, as I can attest to yesterday how bad that streaming was. So I finally got this this microphone working, and hopefully the audio is a lot better now. And I had to get this microphone working because I have to do a review on this thing because they sent this to me, you know, for free practically, in exchange for a review. But okay, so I have a question here from Tonka again. Do different Olympus models handle high ISO speeds equally well? And any idea when the new EM5 will be released? Okay, so I would say that the high ISO, once you get over 16,000, you know, or over 6,400, yeah, it's kind of a mess. I would say the only camera that has a slight edge over any of the other Olympus cameras is the EM1 Mark II. That camera, definitely, I can see a difference at the higher ISOs. Anything over 6,400, I can see a difference. Below 6,400, I really can't tell. Honestly, you know, just a slight change in post-processing and they all look the same to me, even at the higher ISOs. But I shoot at ISO 25,000 all the time with the EM10 or my Pen F, and the pictures are fine, really, because I'm not trying to sell, you know, fine art photography, right? I'm just taking pictures. And then as far as the EM5, you know, the announcement, I think the official announcement is supposed to be October 17th. So I would imagine they'll release it before Christmas, ideally, but that's not always their style. They might wait till after Christmas to actually release the camera. But yeah, we still got a ways to go. And then Fotis is saying, oh, you returned them to Best Buy and a 15% restocking. And then the Fuji and G9. Oh, and an M240. What is that? A digital camera, the M240? I can't even remember. There's so many Leicas, like just any other camera. They're so expensive. I really don't look at them. I mean, I look at them and say, well, what is the fascination with these? And you know, then I'm kind of being a hypocrite because I went with Olympus purely for the looks, right? All right, how's the battery holding up here on my? Oh, the M10 battery's still holding up. This EM10 Mark II has been on non-stop for almost an hour now, and I still don't have the battery indicator on. Your wife shoots a 5D Mark IV, so you've always been available as of right. I'm shooting M10-III and Pen F. Yeah, I love my Pen F. I think it's out on my sofa because I'm so vain, you know. I still just like it next to me. My Pen F, I always like to have it next to me and just look at it. Even after all these years, it's just such a beautiful camera to me. And I think about, you know, how am I going to do something new with this, change a setting or try a different color profile. So I always have the Pen F with me. Oh, so the 240 is a digital camera. I guess that is it a 24 megapixel? I'm just guessing what the 240 stands for, but I guess I can look it up. I'm just now you got me curious. Leica M240. My God, that's a $4,000 camera. Holy smokes. Oh, I appreciate that, Tonka. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate that. Uh, oh, Fotis, the Pen F. When you say it shut down on you, like, is it totally broke or like doesn't work at all, or were you another person that's having the Pen F just shut down and not turn back on sometimes? Because I had that happen to my Pen F about a month or two after I owned it. The Pen F would just shut off, for no reason, and then I had a hard time getting it to turn back on. Sent it into Olympus for warranty work, and they fixed it free within a week. I had it back, and it turned out to be the EVF from the paperwork. I don't have the paperwork anymore, but the paperwork said something about replacing the EVF. So that was kind of weird how everything's all connected. You wouldn't think an EVF would cause the camera to shut down, but I'm not a electrical engineer, so I don't know. But yeah, even $3,000, man, that's a chunk of change, Fotis. I don't know if I could do that. I shouldn't lie. I would probably pay $3,000 if I really wanted it. It's like that EM1X came out, and it was tough. Okay, have another question. What budget M43 camera would you recommend for home videos? Depends on how serious you are about the video. Now, Olympus, the probably the easiest camera to use for home video is the this Pen PL8. Obviously, if you don't know, it has like the flip down screen, which is really handy. So you can like get yourself in the picture with your kids or significant other. But the main thing that this camera has for vlogging or doing video, I should say, is you can attach an external mic with this camera. You get this little SEM adapter. I think you can find these for about $60 on eBay. But this plugs right into the hot shoe here into the back port, and then there's a little microphone jack on the front, and that's really the best way to get audio on an Olympus camera without stepping up all the way to the EM5 Mark II or the EM1 Mark II. Those are the only other two cameras that have mic jacks. So I would recommend this, and this camera went on sale for like, with a lens, the kit lens, for like $300 and some the other day. I don't know if it's still at that price, but I was on Amazon and it was like $350, give or take, with the kit lens. And then you buy the SEM adapter, and that's a killer setup really for home video. But the only downside to this camera is when you're in video mode, it only goes up to ISO 3200. So if it's a little bit dark, like you're taking photos in the dark, because I vlog with this camera, like when I was doing street photography at night, I accidentally used my EM10 one time, and I noticed that the low light video was so much better, and that's because the EM10 Mark II will go up to 6400 ISO. This one only goes up to 3200 ISO. It's not really a big deal. It'll still record videos fine. You just get a faster lens. So a really good budget lens. I guess the kit lens is good enough. It's not very fast, but you may want to get, what's the next cheapest lens? The 25 millimeter is going for around $250. The 25 millimeter f1.8. That's a good video lens for family type videos, not for vlogging, but for videos. It's great because that's the focal length I shoot at when I do my tutorials, is at 25 millimeters. And a lot of times I will use the 25 millimeter lens like I have on here now and open it wide open f1.8 for video. So hopefully that answered your questions. If you had another camera you were thinking about getting, just let me know and I can give you an opinion on that as well. Yeah, if that Pen F is still under warranty, photos, try and send it in and get it repaired. Even if it's not under warranty, it may not be too expensive to get it fixed. It may be just I don't know, a fuse or something. But the Pen F, I would send it in. So Alex Crum, thank you so much for your videos. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you. I try to make it easy step by step. And I got to be honest with you. The reason my videos are so, I go into so much detail and very methodically go through every tutorial is because two things. One, I know what it was like when I was starting out, and that was really in 2012. I didn't know what aperture was. I didn't know nothing about nothing, in 2012 when I started shooting with real cameras. And so when I think about going from one step to the next, I want to make sure that I don't skip something that someone else might, like I don't want to make any assumption that you know what I'm doing from step to step. So I had to I always try to make it as clear as possible. I now I'm not being very clear explaining how I'm being clear, right? It's so ironic. Oh yeah, Lana, no problem. Yeah, the J5, I just found it tonight myself. I was gonna buy that Elgato thing that you were talking about, but that was like $50 or $40 more at Best Buy. So I said, well, I don't. And the nice thing about this little J5 is it has mic jacks on it too, which that little Elgato thing didn't have. And I'm talking about the Elgato 4K one that was like a USB plugged directly in. So this has the little mic jacks, and so you can add audio directly through your streaming via a microphone or through the camera microphones, because it'll take that feed in from the HDMI, not on the M10. The M10, that's one tiny flaw with the M10 HDMI output. It doesn't output audio, it only outputs the video. And it's not a clean signal. There's always an icon somewhere. But this J5, what else is going? And they give you a little hot shoe. I guess you read the description. It's not a hot shoe or cold shoe. It's just a little 1/4 screw on here. So that description that they give is a little bit misleading for the J5. A 1/4, that's good enough. At least it has one, right? So yeah, this J5 for 89 bucks, I thought that was a good deal. And it seems to be working great so far. Because J5, they have a couple of different models, but this is the small one for $89 on Best Buy. So if you're in the US, I assume you are. That's where I bought it. Just tonight, as a matter of fact. It was like $95 with tax. I mean, it's kind of a lot to pay for the little bit that it does for me. But I thought it'd be worth it that I'd be able to show you the screen on the back of the camera, the menus and everything directly, rather than trying to hold the camera up like this, right? Because this little 10-year-old webcam I'm using would never focus on it. I'm gonna just take a little sip here. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Hopefully I answered everyone so far. Yeah, but yeah, that's too bad, Photos. You may still want to send it in unless you want to buy another one. So I'm sorry, what are you shooting with now if you're not using the Pen F since it broke? Oh, do I miss the full frame look? No, not really. Um, it, you know, the I can't think of anything I miss on the full frame. There's no particular look that I thought was special. I mean, yeah, there's that depth of field, that shallow depth of field that you can get, but that's I don't do portraits a lot, right? Usually I'm shooting things, from my car from far away, so there's no depth of field when you're doing that. And I also like astrophotography. If I can get out on a clear night, that astrophotography is a pain. Because you gotta have no moon, so there's only a few days of that, and then you gotta have a clear sky, and then it can't be so cold that your batteries die in 10 minutes. So you really need the perfect scenario to go out and do astrophotography, and then you need to be in a place that there's no light pollution. So astrophotography is logistically very difficult, but I don't need a full frame to do that, and as far as the other things about full frame, there's no particular look. I love the colors and everything that I get out of the Pen F. And with all the art filters, I just have a lot more fun with Olympus cameras in general than I ever did with that Nikon. The Nikon, my biggest problem really was I couldn't take it with me everywhere. As easily. I had these huge bags. If you ever saw any of my video reviews on camera bags, you'll see the big bag that I had to carry with me if I was going to carry Nikon gear. Yeah, but this is a this is a bag I bought and only used for a few months before I got into Olympus. But yeah, this is my D750 sitting here. I was thinking about, how I've been doing these vlogs where I do film and my Olympus camera side by side. I was thinking about maybe taking this Nikon D750 and maybe my E-M10 Mark II side by side, just so you guys can see the difference, because there's really not that much difference. Now in low light, yeah, there's going to be a difference. This camera was pretty amazing in low light, and it had a really amazing dynamic range. But when you're shooting images at the proper, if you're exposing properly and you're shooting at a low ISO, which is 90% of the time for me anyway, I didn't really see an advantage to full frame for that. Now, if I was shooting in dark caves and underground all the time with no flash, yeah, then maybe I might consider like a low megapixel full frame camera. But I'll do that vlog. I'll take my Nikon D750 side by side with my Olympus, maybe the EM10, and do some shots, because years ago when I was watching James Popsey's, and he was like he was doing a video on his D750 and why he didn't want to sell it because of the dynamic range. And then of course later he decided to ditch it, and then his channel exploded from there. Good for him, but he only did 1 or 2 videos comparing the full frame Nikon with the Micro Four Thirds, and there's a lot of videos out there that compare Micro Four Thirds with full frame or APS-C, and they always go for the low light, right, and the dynamic range. And yeah, quite frankly, Micro Four Thirds is going to lose, pixel for pixel. But when you just go out and shoot like I do and just want to take pictures, there's not that much difference. And I'll try and show that one in a vlog one day, maybe this week if I get time. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I was jibber jabbering, and then there's some questions. Does GPS and Bluetooth appeal to you, and will it benefit astrophotography? The Bluetooth is the Bluetooth and GPS in of itself is not doesn't mean anything. It's what are they going to do with it? And I think, like I was saying in my other video, if they utilize the Bluetooth in a way that lets you constantly stream your photos to your phone in the background without you having to do anything else, yeah, I'm going to love Bluetooth. And but I'm not sure how Bluetooth would help with astrophotography. I can see where GPS might. But if they have Bluetooth, then you might be able to just Bluetooth the GPS out of your phone. Because I think Pentax, they use the GPS in their cameras to help track the stars. And whatever that math or science is on how they do that is beyond me, that the GPS. But I still think they can do it without using GPS, in my opinion. But yeah, I would just use my phone. If I'm looking for stars, you know, I'll just use my phone to find them. They have these great apps where you just point your phone up in the sky and it shows you what constellations and all that stuff. Okay, so you shot pictures with ND10 stop filter, but got a purple color effect. Or is there a way to correct for that on the camera? Yeah, the best thing to do, I would imagine, is to do a custom white balance with the filter on. So I don't know if that's possible. Let's see. I still have the lens cap on this camera, so I'm gonna see if the custom white balance even comes up. Oh, I can't see it with my face in the way. Hold on. So we'll do this, number 4, and then capture white balance. I'll do info. Whoops. Oh, I'm not hitting info, I'm hitting, where's the info button? Point the camera to a white sheet of paper. I would try that if you're getting sort of a purple color effect. Try doing the capture white balance with the ND filter on in a bright light, so that, because it looks like the shutter only stayed on for about a second or two. So you may have to go into manual mode. So what I would do is I would switch over to manual mode and slow my shutter speed down to, say, maybe 3 or 4 seconds, whatever exposure you need to be able to capture the white paper. Then go into auto white balance and change it to, just say, custom white balance number 4. Click the OK button, and then hit the info button. Point the camera at a white sheet of paper, and let's see, I set a 4-second exposure. Okay, so yeah, it lasted 4 seconds that time. So you should be able to do that. I've never done it myself, but just doing a dry run here in the live stream, it seems to work. Okay, on my E-M10-ii, F1 button and lever is dead. Ooh, I don't know if I can help with that, to be honest. If there's something physically wrong with the contacts in the buttons, I have no idea how to fix that. I'm sorry. And I don't own an EM5 Mark II to maybe give you any ideas. The only thing I can recommend is maybe try doing a full factory reset through the menu and then see if those buttons come back. If not, yeah, then the contacts are bad on the buttons, and there's probably not much you can do about that other than take it in and get it fixed. Okay, I'm gonna, okay, the J5 looks great. Straight out of my EM10-ii into the Android phone and stream from that. Yeah, I think that'll work. I think that'll work. Like I said, I just got it tonight, so the only thing I've tried is plugging this into my camera, then plugging the J5 into the computer, and that seems to be working fine. Okay, the battery icon's blinking. I'm going to try and change the battery on this EM10. I'll show you my charging station while I'm at it. Oh. See everything I have to charge? I use this for my my 8200 flash, and then of course AA, AAA. This is just a multiple USB charging thing. This is my battery tester here, and then these are my TG5 generic batteries and charger, dual charger. This is the EM1, and this is for my my video monitors. This is for my flash, and then this is the Pen F battery charger. And then I use this K-Star. I love this thing because it gives me a graphic indication, also a percentage of how much the battery is charged. So right now I can see I'm at 8.4 volts, fully charged at 100%. So let me take this out. And I'm going to turn this off. And I also number the batteries. So I know this is a BLS5 battery and this is number 4. So that I don't know, it's just easier to me to remember which number battery is dead after I run through it. Because I know there's all kinds of systems where people put red tape or put, you know, they have battery holders, and when the battery's depleted, they put it on the red side. But I don't know. I didn't want to buy battery holders, so I just number my batteries. Let's see. It's hard doing this one-handed upside down. And then, whoops, this is really cool. When I put this in, I hope you guys can see that. It says the battery's at 6.8 volts, 42%. But okay, little sneak peek at all the freaking batteries I need for all these different cameras. TG5, EM10. So I'm a little bit happy that the M5 Mark III coming out is going to use the same batteries my EM10, because I have a lot of those and I got a lot of chargers. Okay, guys, so let me know how that works out with the custom white balance. I might try that myself tomorrow too. I'm curious. Let me make a note of that. So we're going to use an ND10 filter and use a custom white balance. I'm going to try that myself. So if you're still having problems with that, make a note, purple cast. Maybe I'll have a solution for that, because I'm going to try it myself tomorrow, Gusto. Okay, Chuck, you want to know about the charger. Was it the charger with the LCD display? That's a K-Star charger, and you can get that on Amazon. It's really hard to find. I think I have a link to it in my Amazon store, but let me just do a quick search. K-Star BLS 5 charger. Oh, here it is right here. Okay, let me show you what it is. This is the exact setup I bought, actually. Let me see if I can bring this up. That's not it. Hold on. Plus window capture, I think. Okay. Amazon. It's not showing. That's something else I have to try, but let me move this over here. Okay, Chuck. I'm just going to point my webcam at it so you can see it. Hopefully it's not blowing out. But that's the charger I used, and I bought those. Now, let me tell you, those batteries, they're fine for about a year, but then they start to swell up. As soon as you get any swelling in a battery, you got to chuck it. Don't use any batteries that are even slightly swelled up in your camera. I mean, it's partially because it's dangerous, but then number two, it's hard to get them out of the camera because it's such a tight fit. So is that clear? I don't know if that's clear what that is. But that's the search term I used. It's not focusing, but I searched for K-Star BLS-5 charger. So I assume that's the one you were asking me about, Chuck. And it's been a great charger. I bought that thing a long time ago. Let me see if it doesn't say that I bought this on here. I know I did. You know how Amazon, they'll say you purchased this on such and such a date. Maybe this is a slightly different one, but yeah, I love that charger. Now that charger, you have to plug it in at home. It's not something you can really take with you, you know, in the car, because it's a fast charger. Let me just check one more thing for you. Oh, I take that back. It does come with like a little cigarette lighter plug-in adapter that you can plug into the charger. But generally, I don't recommend doing that. It's best to just charge them at home. Charging batteries in your car, you know, one thing leads to another and your car goes on fire. Now, I charge a lot of things in my car. I have, you know, those USB adapter things, and I charge everything through USB, but I do not charge things that have their own cigarette lighter plug, drawing the full 12 volts out of the system into another thing. Because I've heard stories, I don't know anybody this has happened to, but I've heard stories where people plug in things, devices into their cigarette lighter, and whatever electronics, and it fries the computer in their car. So I buy high quality USB adapters, you know, cigarette lighter adapters. I don't buy the cheapest one I can get. And I only bought two. I can't even think of what they are now, but they weren't the cheapest one. And then I only use devices that were designed to charge by DC voltage. So I'm trying to eliminate, because that charger there is designed, I believe, to work with AC power, and then it has a circuit inside to switch to DC power, or vice versa. But there's a lot of electronics in there, and it over and above something that is simply drawing a 5 volt signal from another USB device. So that's that logic might be totally flawed. And again, I can't think of anybody it's ever happened to, but I watched that guy, Scotty Kilmer's YouTube channel, and he was very adamant about, because he's a mechanic, don't be plugging stuff into your cigarette lighter like electronics, because you can fry the computer in your car. And he said he sees it happen, and I got no reason not to believe him. It kind of makes sense. Oh yeah, thanks, Enrique. I hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Um, it's funny actually. Uh, that day that I got caught without my camera, and I posted on Instagram. If you guys follow me on Instagram, that day I was on Instagram. I posted a few pictures from my cell phone because I didn't. I got traffic was so bad, and I was my sister was driving. I said, just leave me here. I'm not gonna make it home and back here for dinner or whatever. But I called Uber a few hours later after I had dinner home, and then when I got home, my car wasn't here because my sister left it over at my mom's house, and I was like, oh my God. So yeah, even when I come home, I can't find my car. It's just it's kind of funny, but yeah, that actually happened. As I got up in the morning and I was like, where's my car? And I had to think, and I'm like, oh, it's probably at my mom's house. But I'm really good about finding my car now, because all my drive-by photography vlogs, I never leave the car really. I just step outside. Most of the time I leave the engine running. I got one of these smartwatches, and I didn't think I would like it, but actually I really like this thing. I lost my other watch, but it's kind of sweaty. All right, what time is it? So we've been going on a little over an hour. Is there any other questions? I mean, I'll stay on as long as you guys want, but if you don't have any other questions, I can call it and do another one, maybe at a better time for a lot of my viewers, because statistically on my channel, only about 25% of the viewers are in the United States, which surprised me a little bit. And then the rest are all over the place. The second biggest country is the UK, and then Germany, then Australia. So I was surprised about Germany beating out Australia. I would imagine Australia is, more of an English-speaking country, and I'm assuming that I've never been there. But they're very small percentages. So it's US, UK, Australia, and Germany, and then everywhere else. Oh, yeah, I talked about the Fujifilm earlier. I still think about it. Yeah, I'm just a little torn because, like I said, I'm a little bit vain when it comes to cameras. I have to kind of like how they look. And the only camera that Fuji has that I really like the looks of is the X-T3, and that's just a little bit pricey, because all I really care about are the art film simulations. So I was looking at an older, actually, Fujifilm X70, but that has the old 16 megapixel X-T1 sensor in it. So I kind of got mixed feelings about buying a camera with really, really old sensor in it. But I might, I don't know, we'll see. I'm waiting for the EM5 Mark III to come out before I buy another camera. I mean, that's not to say I might be able to find an XT1 or something really cheap, just so I can play with the film simulations, but then I'm afraid that once that kind of wears off, I'll have, 7 or 8 lenses and thousands of dollars spent. And then I'll never really use the camera again because I'm kind of done with the film simulation kind of thrill that I got. But it is tempting. It's tempting because I'm really digging this little film photography things I've been doing lately. I still got film in this other bag. I have to finish this roll of Portra. This is a Nikon N70. And I think I paid $25 for this camera. And I didn't enjoy shooting with this as much as I did the Olympus OM2S. There's a giant moth flying in here. Anyway, I feel like that guy in Camera Conspiracy. He's always complaining about bugs and things flying at him. Anyhow, because this thing is fully automatic, right? If you want it to be, it has a program mode. It has, and I shot in aperture priority mode for the most part. It winds the film for you. It rewinds it for you. The metering is pretty much spot on. But so I didn't enjoy shooting with this, but I did. The one thing I like about this camera over the OM2S is this little grip here. Man, this this feels really good in the hands. I wish the EM10 had a grip like this. And that's why I bought one for my EM10, because now it does have a grip like this. It makes a huge difference in the handling in the camera. Because I was out with the OM2 camera one of the very first times I went out with film, and it was really humid and my hands got very sweaty, and I had a hard time holding onto the camera with one hand because the camera's heavy with the lens on it, and my hands were just slipping, sliding all over that camera trying to hold it. But something like this is really easy to hold, just like my EM10. But really, the only reason I brought this camera out is because I was really disappointed with the images I got from the Minolta Maxim 7000 when I took it out shooting, and I had the 35-70 lens on it, which was supposed to be a good lens. But the images all were a little bit softer than the images I got from the OM2 film camera. And I was shooting mostly with the 24mm f2.8. So I said, you know what? I know this Nikon 35mm f2 lens is very sharp. I mean, it's one of the sharpest lenses I have, of all the lenses I have, except maybe my Zeiss lens. And I said, okay, I'm going to put, and this is the only, like I said, this is the only camera I had that would shoot with this lens. So I'm going to put this lens on this camera and shoot with this film and see if I can get a little bit sharper images. Because Portra 160 is supposed to be a relatively sharp film compared to, say, Kodak Color Plus or Ultramax. This is supposed to be a sharp film, but anyway, we're not talking about film cameras today. But that, as far as Fuji goes, that's why I wanted to get a Fuji, is mainly because of the film simulations. They really are beautiful. And on Instagram, there's another. I think it's Larry. Larry shoots with Fuji, I think. If it's not you, Larry, I'm sorry, but yeah, he shoots with Fujifilm, and the images are beautiful. I just love the colors coming out of that. And I said, I'd like to try that and then do it side by side with my Olympus and see what I like better. But I'm just not ready to drop, $400 for an XT1 or $800 for an XE3 or even more for the XT3. And yeah, as far as video goes, I'm not too worried about the video side. The E-M1 Mark II does good enough, and the E-M10 actually does a great job on video for tutorials and things, and even for vlogging to some extent, which I need to do a video on. And for this live stream, I'm just using this 10-plus-year-old webcam, and it works for me. I'm content with that. So I'm not worried about the X-T3. So, but it is a beautiful camera. I'd like to get the X-T2 in that titanium color they have, because it, you know, that's a beautiful camera too. But that costs more than X-T3 right now. Unless I buy it used, but then the price is so close, you know, I can't buy an X-T2 and the X-T3 is the same price almost. And I don't want to buy an X-T3 because it's so pricey. You have to be pretty committed to the camera if you're going to spend that kind of money, in my opinion. And I guess I could rent one, but then I don't know. I don't like to rent things. I feel like that's money I could be using towards a purchase. Now, if I was doing some pro work and I needed a particular camera, and you know, for pro photographers, when they're doing a job, you know, then the cameras become just tools, right? And you just rent the tools that you need. And that's kind of how I feel about renting things. If I need it and I don't want to buy it, I'll rent it. It's just a business expense, and it's just a tool. It's not something I care about. But the X-T3, for me, it would be a personal investment. You know, it has to be disposable money. And at $1,500 without a lens, I don't know if I'm that committed to that system, you know, and shooting with that. I'm just mildly curious, or not mildly, but I'm very interested in shooting in the film simulations. I wish I had a friend that had a Fujifilm camera. Because I have like 4 or 5 Fujifilm cameras, but they're all compacts, you know, like this one here. Well, heck, I don't know where it is now. Oh, yeah, this one here. This is a little Fujifilm. I got this for my birthday a few years ago. Has a lot of sentimental value to it. And the only film simulations this has are the Fujifilm Chrome, and that's it. I think it only has Fujifilm Chrome. And I'm not crazy about that look. I want to try the Velvia, and I want to try the Acros. And then there's a couple other ones in there I can't remember now that I want to try. The Fujifilm Chrome, and then of course this is just a tiny sensor camera, so the images are kind of muddy anyway. But you know, I did like the Fujifilm Chrome images on a lot of the when I took a picture of a tractor or something, and the mud and the rust and everything like that looks so good on a Fujifilm that I didn't get when I took a similar picture with my Pen F or Olympus camera. And that's kind of what's kind of piqued my interest in Fujifilm, because I did get a few images that I thought were really nice with the Fuji Chrome simulation. But what if I had a legit X-T3 or X-T2 or a legit Fujifilm camera? What would the images look like? And based off Instagram and the pictures I see from a lot of my viewers here, I'm pretty impressed. Okay, let's see. I'm an Olympus user since the film era and still using the OMD and Pen F now. Do you have much knowledge on Pentax KP? No, I don't. I don't. Let me just Google it real quick. I can give you sort of just a... So 24 megapixel, no AA filter. And it came out in 2017, so it's pretty new. I think, oh, you know, DP Review or the Camera Store did hands-on review with this, I think. Oops, I hope I didn't kill my live stream. Here we go. But yeah, I don't have any personal knowledge on that camera, so I'm going to rely on the same sources you would. Reviews from the Camera Store and DP Review, and you can look at the images there. A lot of times when I'm making a camera decision, I don't do this as much now because I'm pretty content with Olympus, but I will go to the DP review site, and then they have that image comparison chart or page, right, where you can see the images, different ISOs, and you can download the raw images. So what I do is I download the raw image from the camera I'm interested in, and then I download the raw image from a camera that I already own, right? So if I wanted to compare the Fuji X-T3 versus the Olympus Pen F, I can go to DP Review, select the Pen F, select the X-T3, download the raw files from each one, because DP Review is set up a test scenario, right? So the images should be identical in terms of exposure and everything else. And it's the same exact subject, same framing, same focal length for the most part. I should get, it's the best way to compare images. And then once I download the raw files, I can push and pull the shadow areas and the highlights, and then I can compare what I can actually do myself if I own that camera versus the camera that I have. So if hopefully, if that's new or a good idea, let me know. But that's what I do if I'm thinking about a camera, and I've done that with the X-T2. I did download. They had 4 or 5 raw files of their static test scene where they have the lines and the hair and the wine bottles, and then I downloaded the E-M1 Mark II raw files from their site, and then I compared them in Lightroom, and I wasn't impressed, because they have, how they have their own comparisons that you can pull up side by side, and the differences between cameras are so small sometimes that just looking at what they can give you online is not enough. You have to download the raw files for yourself and compare them in a way that you would work with them in your workflow in Lightroom, for example, or whatever photo editing software you use. So for the Pentax KP, yeah, just go to DP Review, download the raw files for the Pentax KP, download the raw files for the Pen F with the same lighting condition, because they have like in low light, normal light, and highlight. Download the same lighting and into whatever software you have, if it's Lightroom or Capture One, and compare the files and push and pull the shadows and highlights and saturation. Play with all the sliders and see how the images compare at that level. Image quality is not the only thing to consider. Obviously, you have to look at the ergonomics and really if the camera appeals to you or not. That KP is not an attractive camera to me. Just the little picture I'm looking at now. It's very goofy looking. I like their Pentax K5, I think it is. And I might get I have a Pentax camera. It's an SR10, I believe. It's a really old camera. And I've been meaning to buy a lens for it because I only have the body. I bought it on eBay because it has the image stabilization in it. So I was thinking about adapting lenses to it. But I ended up buying Nikon or something back then. I think I like the Nikon better, so I never got around to trying. And that's what I mean. I don't like to get rid of stuff. I just keep everything. I just cannot do like Peter Forsgard was saying in his video. When he switched to Olympus, he sold everything. And I can't do it. I'm a hoarder to some extent when it comes to camera gear. I just can't let go. Any other questions? So I only answered a few questions about the E-M10 and the settings. Let me try and get that back up because it looks like it's frozen. Integrated webcam. So that's working. Back to, oh, guess I should turn the camera on. Ah, there we go. All right. Well, it looks like nobody has any other questions, so I will probably just call it. I mean, that's about an hour and a half of video. So if there's no other questions, I'll wait another minute. But if there's no other questions, I'm just going to end it. So I know I was talking a lot, but feel free to interrupt me anytime while I'm talking, because I'm keeping an eye on the little thing that's scrolling. You know, the other question I had was when I look at the live stream after it's already been over on the channel, I don't see the little comments along the side when I'm playing it back later. You know, when I look at other live streams, you can see the people's comments and everything on the side. But on my live stream, I didn't see that, so I don't know why that is. Oh, that I'm going to go live. You know, it's I'll try and structure that somehow. I still don't know how these announcement things work. So I'm going to practice a little bit and figure out how to have these things announced, because I noticed when I set this up for to come on at 10 o'clock, I left everything open because I was afraid if I closed it, that notification that I was going to go live would you know, go away. But I can't leave my computer on for like 2 days just to keep that notification up, right? So maybe it stays up when I turn the computer off. So I'm going to try a couple of things. So if you see that I'm going to be live and I don't actually go live, it's because there was a false alarm and I'm just practicing or trying to figure this out. But I think the best way for now to find out is I will post in the community tab on my page that what time exactly I'm going to go live. So I think the next time I need to do is I need to do it at a much earlier time, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon for people that are like in the UK or Germany and those places. Because right now it's like, you know, 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning for them, and there's no, you know, nobody from the UK is going to come and watch me. So I'm going to put, yeah, long story short, I'll post in the community page for now, but I'm going to try some of the other more conventional ways that I see other YouTubers doing it. Somehow they have notifications and you can set a reminder that it's coming on, etc. So I need to figure that out. Okay, Ming has a question. Happy enough using Olympus. Have thought of XT3, but have to start buying the lenses. Do you own the 300 f4 Olympus and optical? No, I don't have the 300. It's just too expensive. I use the 75 to 300. Again, it's this lens here. Oh, you can't see me now. Hold on. So yeah, I use the 75 to 300 because I'm not doing anything professionally at a 300 millimeter focal length. So I can't justify spending, you know, $2,000 for it. Now, Tony Northrup did a comparison of the 300 millimeter versus a 600 millimeter lens from Nikon, and that was kind of interesting. It was looking bad for the 300 millimeter. But then when you look at the 300 millimeter images that actual photographers are taking, they're really amazing. I mean, you see all the detail and everything. So, yeah, I would say there's some Australian guy that did a review on the 300 millimeter lens, and he did an awesome job. From all accounts, that lens is supposed to be awesome. but I just can't justify the cost personally. Have I shot any planets? No. No, I've never done that. I don't have a telescope, and then, yeah, there's a little bit of overhead with that, right? Because you buy these big mirror telescopes, and then you get those adapters to put your cameras, and then you might also need one of those tracking motors and things for this telescopes, and yeah, it adds up pretty fast. So what I was thinking of doing is I want to try and just get that one constellation first. God, the name escapes me now, but it's the one you can see almost with the naked eye. Like Andromeda. God, I wanted to try to do the Andromeda galaxy, and see how far I get there, because that would be kind of cool to get my own picture of the Andromeda galaxy. But because I have the 75 to 300 here. It's a little bit slow for astrophotography, but I think I can do photo stacking with that other star tracking software. So I'm gonna try. Once I kind of get it down, I'll do a tutorial on it. But we're a long way away from me being any good at astrophotography. Post a notification. I don't know, that might be a little tacky. Posting a notification on Instagram. I know you follow me. Do you do Twitter too? Maybe that's another way. I have a Twitter account. I just never ever post on it. Yeah, Ming. Don't spend $2,000 on a 300 millimeter. You can get these for about $400. And the only challenge with this lens, if you're shooting with the E-M10 Mark II, and I only say it's a challenge now because since they updated the E-M1 Mark II's firmware, this lens is really amazing. It focuses really fast and nails it most of the time. The times that it missed, I would say, is mostly because of me, right? But on the E-M10 Mark II, I did do a video on birds in flight using this lens, and my keeper rate was like a little less than half with this lens. And like I said, that's partially due to, photographer error, but it's partially because the camera and the lens combination just can't keep up with fast moving birds. So, but that's the beauty of digital photography, right? You can shoot as many as you want. And just keep the ones that you get and improve your skill. And once you get the skill down of taking pictures of birds, then maybe you might want to think about spending that kind of money if you really get into it. Okay, well, there's still some people hanging in there, I guess. God knows why. But I think I'll call it. So last call for questions, and then I'm going to end the live stream because I don't think it's a good idea to have nearly 2-hour videos on YouTube without any structure, right? Because these live streams are very unstructured. They just kind of go in every direction. And my videos, if I'm going to do a long video, it's going to be structured, right? Mixing milkshakes and beer. Oh, hi Javier. Yeah, and that was on an empty stomach too. Let me tell you. Because I had lunch that day, but I didn't have that beer until like 6 or 7 o'clock. So that lunch was long gone, so I had that beer on an empty stomach, and then, within the hour I had that milkshake. That didn't go well. I'll just leave it at that. Hey Javier, did you have any questions, or are you just watching? Because I'm just about to end this vlog. I have this picture of this old camper here. That I was just driving by and it was just sitting there. I said, well, okay, let me take a picture of it. And I used the grainy film too. Hi Robert, how are you? The Panasonic Leica 100-400. Yeah, I've heard good things about that lens. I don't know though about how well it focuses on Olympus cameras. So you have to make sure you have the firmware on the camera and the lens updated, because there's always issues between Panasonic and Olympus. And then at that point, maybe it'd be worth the purchase. I didn't think the 100-400 was cheaper than this one. Maybe it's the same price or a little more. 400 millimeter, getting that little bit of extra reach is, yeah, that would be helpful, I think, because those birds are so tiny sometimes, right? And they're all the way up in that tree. Man, I love to get woodpecker pictures, and those suckers, they're fast, right? And they're always way up high in the tree, and they're tiny. Some of them, those red belly woodpeckers and stuff. But I'll tell you a trick that I do is I have a bird feeder in my backyard, and then I just sit there in a chair about 20 yards back. And after they get used to me just sitting there not doing anything, they start going in for the bird feeder. And on the bird feeder, I have a like a real stick from a tree sticking out. So I'll have to talk about that one day. But they land on the stick. A lot of birds, they land on the stick waiting for the other birds to finish eating whatever's in the bird feeder. So I get shots of those birds on the stick, so it looks like a legit picture. Okay, let's see. The Great Vanzini. I was about to grab a Pen F when I heard you. They are discontinuing. It was just to have Micro Four Thirds in my carry-on. You know, I wouldn't on the Pen F, just because it's discontinued, I wouldn't not buy it just for that reason. Because I can't imagine. Well, I don't know. It wouldn't deter me from buying a camera just because it's been continued. If it's a good camera, I'll buy it. You know, if my Pen F dies on me for whatever reason or I lose it, I'll buy another one even though it's been discontinued. Just my personal feeling. I really love that camera. But that's the thing, is you have to love the camera, how it looks cosmetically. Does it talk to you? Because that Pen F is always begging me to go out and shoot, you know. And like I said, I'm always happy to oblige, right? And that's what drew, you know, that's the reason I would buy it again, even though it's been discontinued. But that would be true for any camera. If I really liked it, I wouldn't care if it was discontinued or not. Oh, a cheap tripod for a school project. Oh, God. You know, the if you don't need it soon, are you in the United States, Robert? Because if you are, B&H Photo, time to time, they have these really good deals on tripods. Thanks, Vanzini. That my pictures are okay. You know, I still not where I want to be, but I keep trying. But yeah, as far as tripod goes, when you say cheap, what do you mean? Like less than $100, less than $50? Okay, you're in Romania. So would you buy from Amazon, for example? Do they have one in Romania? Oh, I don't see one. I don't see a Romanian Amazon. But let me look at Amazon real quick. But yeah, Robert, tell me what your budget is for a tripod. Then I can kind of make a little better recommendation. And I assume it's just going to be a standard tripod. As far as brands go, generally speaking, I'm really happy with the Mi Photo brands. Every tripod I've bought from them, I've been very happy with. And they're priced accordingly. They're not expensive tripods, but for the quality you're getting, there's a lot of tripods at that price range that are also very good. Except for Manfrotto. Manfrotto, you have to spend about double to get a good tripod from them. All their cheap tripods from Manfrotto, because I have one of their B-Frees that I paid 150 bucks for. It's okay. You know, it's not as good as my Mi Photos at the same price point. So I would say that the Mi Photos are good tripods. So with that, let me type in Mi Photo tripod and see if I can pick one out for you that's not real expensive. Whoops, that's 160. I know, exciting, right? So Mi Photo. How do I sort by price? Oh, yeah, they really don't have anything under 100 bucks. The other brand I like is Benro. Let me see if Benro has one for under 100. No, everything's over 100 bucks. Oh, hey Augusta. So you bought that Mi Photo Air tripod? That tripod is awesome. Yeah, no question. I personally, I love that tripod. I take it everywhere. I have one down here on the floor here too. But anyhow, yeah, you know, I'm sorry, Robert. I don't have a recommendation for a tripod under 50 bucks. I don't have one even for under $100. I mean, I have tripods that I paid less than $100 for, but I can't recommend them for the most part. So what I would do is just look at any reviews you can find on Amazon that if they're 4.5 stars or better, and then once you narrow that list down, if it's tall enough, and you know, if the tripod's tall enough and has a ball head on it for 50 bucks and it's got 4.5 stars, then take that information, then go onto YouTube and then look at some reviews online so you can actually see, not that you can always trust reviews online, but then you actually get to see it physically in someone's hands and get some perspective on how it, you know, how it feels to them. and how it operates, or how do the legs open or extend, how does the ball head work, and if they have any criticisms. So that's really your best approach to, I think, maybe finding a cheaper tripod, but I just don't have a cheap one that I can recommend. Oh, how do I focus on the stars? Oh, that's simple. I just like I was saying earlier, I use the magnify feature in live view, and so I find the brightest star first, and then I magnify to 14x onto that one star, and then I manually focus. So I have the camera in manual focus, and then I find I focus on the entire sky to try to get it as close as I can. And then I zoom in onto the brightest star and I focus on it. And the first thing you'll see is the star is kind of blurry, but it may be too small to be able to really tell if you got it in focus. So the way I do it is, once I'm zoomed in, when I'm manually focusing, I try to make the star as small as possible on the live view, because then it's in focus. If the star is very small in the live view, because as you're moving the focus ring, the star will look a little bigger and a little smaller, but it'll never look tack sharp in the live view because it's so dark out. The image is so grainy that you can't really get a pin sharp star in live view. So you have to do it by focusing and just try and get the smallest star that you can, or make it look the smallest it can, even though it may still look a little fuzzy. Because then when you zoom back out to normal view 1x and take the picture, it'll be tack sharp at that point. Yeah, Zomi, I've got mixed feelings about that brand. I know the other channel, their Micro 4 Nerds, she did a review on a Zomi tripod, but I think that was like an $80 or $90 tripod. But I saw a review from another YouTuber that actually used it until it died. Meaning, he got it in good condition, and then he used it in the field for like a year, and then it started falling apart on him. So at $80 or $90, I'd rather spend just a little more and get something like a Mi Photo or a Benro rather than a Zomi. But under $100, Zomi's probably the best deal out there, I think. I just I don't know. Again, I wish I'd like to recommend like the cheapest things around, but it's hard for me to do that because I know long term they're not going to last, and it's not something I would personally buy. Okay, the question is, should I invest in Olympus Mark II or invest in a tripod or some better lenses? Right now you have the Mark I. Yeah, don't worry about the Mark II if you have a Mark I. Image quality wise, there's very little difference, if any. The autofocus is better on the Mark II, and I can't think. I don't have a Mark I personally, but based on the feature set, there's not a lot of difference. But especially on the image quality, I've not seen any differences, and I'm basing that on the other methodology I talked about, where I downloaded raw files from DP Review site and compared them to the EM10 Mark II raw files. The test shots were a little different because they had a different scenario, but generally speaking, I didn't see much difference in image quality. So when you invest, I would say, depends what kind of photographer you are. If you use a tripod a lot, a tripod's very handy for landscapes and astrophotography, but then you need a good lens, right? So it's the chicken or the egg, right? Personally, I'd probably invest in a lens. But before I buy a lens or a tripod, I would recommend getting a flash to do off-camera flash. So if you get the Godox TT350 with the radio trigger, oh, hold that thought. Sorry. Now I'm stealing from Three Blind Mice and an Elephant or whatever. I don't think the Godox works with the E-M10 Mark I. Believe it or not. So you may have to buy an Olympus flash and trigger, and that can get pretty pricey. So what you have to do, if you buy a flash, you buy a manual flash like that. I did a review on another flash, a Yongnuo. But get it. You don't buy Yongnuo. I would buy the Godox flashes. So I would buy a manual power Godox flash and a dumb trigger for like $20. So you're going to spend maybe $80 for a flash and a trigger. And that'll improve your photography a lot more than a tripod or a lens will. So I have a lot of videos with off-camera flash. So you can kind of watch those for some inspiration or some ideas. That's where I would go first, is with a flash. And then number two is, yeah, I would go for a lens, and then, well, I would go for a tripod. It's a tough call. Either way, you can't go wrong. If you buy a tripod first or a lens first, either option will expand your photography, right, in different ways. So it's really not an either or, which should I do first. It's more of, you know, you really need to do both eventually. So you can start on either one, lens or tripod, because like I said, either item will expand your photography. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, that Godox stuff, that is good stuff. I'm really happy. I just got back from a real estate job today, and I used my I already put it back in the bag because I have another job coming. But I just use my 8200, and then I bring the TT350 just as a backup. Not that it could possibly hope to match an 8200 flash, but it works with the radio trigger, and I just have to pop it a couple more times to match an 8200. But yeah, I'm really happy with the whole system. And my buddy, he just bought the B&H photo version. I forget what they call it. Pro Photo or something. No, not. Anyway, he bought a Godox system as well, and he really loves it. Yeah, Enrique got it's called the Flashpoint. That's the same thing as the Godox, but it's sold here in the U.S. I think Robertson, did he say it was in Romania, or was that someone else? Um, let's see. Dynamic range on EM12 sensor compared to the EM10.2. I find myself blowing out the highlights more often when shooting outdoors and trying to expose to the right. The dynamic range, honestly, is going to be very similar. And I say that because the ultimately the image is a 12-bit raw file, and that's what's capping the dynamic range. Now there is such a thing as a 14-bit raw file, and I think someone's talking about going even higher, which theoretically gives you more dynamic range. I think Olympus is, no, I'm sorry, Panasonic might have a 14-bit raw in their G5s possibly, but anyway, I don't know. But that exposing to the right, I'm not a big fan of personally. I'd rather expose a little bit to the left, and it's really a personal preference in photography. Like I have this image of this rusty old trailer, right? You can see all the highlights are blown, but the shadows, some of them are very black, but that's okay. That's the look I like personally. So I've never really paid super attention to the highlights on one camera versus the other, because I'm more of a, you know, shadow type area photographer. I'm more concerned about, I really want to crush the blacks to black and let the highlights go where they need to go. I don't worry about it. But what you should do, and I said this earlier, I don't know if you were here for that, go to DP Review's website and download the raw files for the EM10 and the EM1 Mark II, because they use the same lens usually and the same lighting conditions. You can download the raw files and compare them yourself. How soon do the highlights blow out versus, you know, on one camera versus the other. That way you have nearly identical conditions and you'll get a legit comparison. Because I've never taken the EM10 Mark II and the EM1 out at the same time and shot. Yeah, that Enrique, that's where my buddy bought it. He bought it at Anorama on sale. He saved like $300 on a whole system. He bought like two 80. He bought an 8600 and 8400, and then he bought the Pro Trigger, the newer one, and a couple other things. He was trying to talk me into it. I was kind of tempted because it was a good deal, but I'm actually getting by just fine with my 8200. It's just right for the kind of jobs that I'm doing in terms of real estate. Now for personal stuff, the TT350 is good enough. But yeah, as the FOIA, I wish I could give you a more direct answer on the highlight comparison. But the best thing to do is, like I said, go to DP Review and download those things and try it. Oh, Robert, yeah, I just use Olympus Workspace and I export it. So I'll bring the raw files in and then I'll export them as JPEGs. So that's all there is to it. If now Workspace, I don't think will let you export in PNG file, and I rarely have to do that, but I would do it. How do I do it now? I use another software called, and it's free, it's called Inkscape. So if you need to export in PNG, you can copy the images or load the images into Inkscape, which is a vector art software, but that will export into PNG. And PNG, I believe, is limited in the quality of the picture. It's not as good as JPEG, and it's certainly not as good as the RAW or TIFF file or DNG. I don't know technically what the difference is. I just remember that I was trying to export some PNG files for a print job, and they wouldn't take them because they said the PNG files just don't have the resolution. And they might have been speaking to just my PNG files and not somebody else's, but they asked me if I could send them a PDF or a JPEG instead. So, but Inkscape is a free software that'll export in PNG. Not from RAW to PNG. It'll do JPEG to PNG. I don't know any software that goes from RAW to PNG directly. Photoshop might, but I've never done it. I assume you have Olympus Workspace and you know how to export files to JPEG. If you don't, I can show you, but it's pretty simple. Okay, I'm gonna do more live streams, but I really need to end this one because it's I'm getting tired, and my dog is getting bored. She's attacking or barking, so I want to thank everyone again for coming out today, and I will try to announce the live streams once I figure that out. But at the very least, I'll announce them in the community tab, and then once I figure out how to announce them directly in YouTube via whatever, like I see other YouTubers doing, I'll do it that way. So, and maybe make some recommendations to me in the community tab about what topics to go over. I was trying to answer some questions in this one, but I didn't get a lot of questions. I got some good questions, but you know, I'd like to cover some other topics too. So thanks everyone for coming in, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. All right, thanks, Augusto. I try. I'm going to end it. Thanks, Robert. Glad to do it. Okay, you guys, have a good evening or morning, wherever you are.